You need to figure out how to blur your background. Blur your background. Blur your background. I think you have to request a green, you got to do a green screen. Choose under the arrow for video, select choose virtual background. There's something there. Just so that you don't show the bedroom in the background. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Kimberly.
How are you?
Good, fine. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here today and
I'm happy to be
gracing us with your
invited.
presentation.
So let me just, before we let everybody else on,
Okay.
I'm just going to test if I can share my screen, okay?
Okay.
Let me see. Host disabled. So you're the host. Can you enable that I could do share screening?
Yes, I can. I'm going to do that right now.
Okay, let me try
Okay.
again. Let me see. I'm not good at this. What happens if I put share screen? Share screen. Okay, I see how this works. Oh, wow. There's some, how do I find this? How do I, gosh, there's so many screens I've got going. Okay, so I'll move that to the side. I see what's happening. I'm going to close it. I'm not, is it
Okay. Are
sharing
you
or not
are you
really?
are you able to share screen?
I think I am. I'm gonna just have to wait. Let me just move my stuff around on my other screen to make sure it's where it's at. This way I can control it. Plus, I found there was a typo in the file I sent you.
It happens.
Let me see how this works. Okay, I'm gonna test it again. Share screen.
Okay.
I'm gonna choose this one. See if that works. This one. Okay, share. And tell me how.
Yep, I can see it perfectly.
You know. Okay, so if let's see, there should be a view. How do I make this
Go to slideshow
slideshow?
and then from the
from beginning.
yes.
Okay, and that's how it goes.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
I'll start, and then I'm going to go ahead and start admitting people.
Okay, so should I just go ahead and have my screen up like this? Is that okay?
That's fine. I'm going to start off by sharing my screen first.
Okay, so
Okay.
should I? I'll stop the share.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I'll let you share,
yeah.
and then I'll try to take over. Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Hello. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. So, okay, Karen, I'm going to close your window since you have control here now. I'm going to share my screen. I'll make this small. Okay, I'm a bit of a stickler for time, so I think in the interest of time, I want to go ahead and get started, and I'll just add people as they come on. So I want to say hello and welcome everyone to our Contract Connection Lunch and Learn presented by the Southern California Virtual Business Center. We have an exciting meeting for you today. Our agenda is we're going to talk a little bit about the Southern California Virtual Business Center. We're going to talk about why we have contracting connection. We're going to introduce our speaker, Karen Son of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and then we'll do wrap up with some Q&A and talk a little bit about our upcoming events. So just a little bit about the Southern California Virtual Business Center. We are a center that focuses exclusively on capacity training for diverse suppliers. And in our programming, we have a number of amazing ways for small businesses to be able to connect with our center in order to receive support for their business and really with the ultimate goal of preparing and training businesses for the capacity for corporate and government contracts. So our signature program that we're known for is the Certified Business Enterprise Supplier Training. We currently have a cohort going on right now of 20 small businesses. And that program is our executive education and training program where we focus on the capacity, capital, and connections in terms of the relationships necessary for corporate and government contracts. Then we have what we call our Accelerate program, which many of you are familiar with. It's a program for businesses at any stage that are interested in understanding all that it takes in order to scale and grow a business in contracting space. And then our final program is what we call our Large Incubator, and that's for those individuals, it's for entrepreneurs and individuals who are recently laid off, who are seeking to create a business that is conducive to contracting. We also offer things such as our Deep Dive series, where when you're going through one of our programs, you may need a little bit more help, let's say with marketing or with accounting, or even submitting contracts. So we have these Deep Dive series that are available to enroll in to dive deeper on a particular topic. And then we have our contract connection, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. if I can get my screen to move. So there are over, there we go. There are over $30 billion in corporate and government contracts. And that means that there is enough for everyone, anyone who's interested in really growing and scaling a company through contracts. We recognize that in this day and age, especially with dealing with COVID-19, a lot of businesses are trying to figure out how do they sustain and grow. And I think contracting is definitely a means in which small businesses can achieve sustainability and also growth for their companies. So we recognize that a lot of small businesses still were not aware of contract opportunities. So we created Contract Connection Lunch and Learn. The goal of our Contract Connection Lunch and Learn is to increase awareness regarding contracts, as well as to be able to share with business owners, share with business owners concerning the different contracting opportunities that are available and the contracts that each company is offering and how to do business with them. We offer Contract Connection on the first and third Wednesday of every month from 11:30 to 12:30. And we have such amazing companies as the LADWP, who will be presenting today, AT&T, NBC Universal. So a whole host of companies that really want to be able to educate businesses and diverse suppliers on how to do business with them. So without further ado, I would like to present to you and introduce Karen Song, who will be presenting from the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, how to do business with them. So Karen, I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kimberly. This is such a great event. This is so necessary too and so timely because really social justice is like a big thing right now. Racial equity is a big thing and everybody's looking for more diversity in their contracting in terms of, especially in LA and in California. So I'm really happy to share this with you. Hopefully this will be beneficial. I'm not sure what level everybody's at, but I'm going to kind of start with the basics and you can certainly ask questions. And even if you know something, just basics about doing business with DWP, hopefully this will give you just a little bit more insight, maybe give you a little bit of an edge. So I'm going to share my screen and let's see, I can do this. Okay, let's see. I am so not good at this technical stuff, but let's see. Is this working?
It is working.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how to do business with LADWP, and hopefully today, in this short amount of time, you can understand how the bidding process works here at DWP. I'm going to explain a little bit about the different kind of solicitation methods that we commonly use, how we choose a vendor, and how you get awarded a contract. I'll touch a little bit on certifications because I think it's important to know. I'm going to give you some secrets about some benefit programs or preference programs that we have going at LADWP that you might be able to benefit or use to your advantage. And then just some tips on how to find opportunities and kind of some of the fatal flaws and things that you could, mistakes to avoid, kind of boost your chances of doing better. So just a little bit about LADWP. We are the largest municipal owned water and power utility in the nation. And we have 4 million residents and we award about $1 billion in contracts every year. That's a lot of money. And we certainly don't want it all to go to the big corporations. Our board is committed to diversity. My office is actually here just so that we can try to increase diversity in contracting. And that's really a lot of most of the programs that I operate is for that goal alone. And so there's a lot of money to be awarded and we really want that to be shared with the small businesses. Even though it seems like a big dollar amount, I think there are opportunities for smaller firms to have a chance at that. So some of the things that we buy things to support our operations and our capital projects. So there's materials and equipment, a lot of construction, professional and just professional services, and that would be, consulting services, environmental, any kind of specialized services like that, and then general services, repairs or whatnot. Now, one thing we do not contract out for things that we can do with our own labor force. And I do want to kind of mention that we have a big unionized labor force. So if we can do it in-house, like we have our own print shop in-house, we normally wouldn't contract stuff like that out. We have our own facilities maintenance people. We don't contract that out. Not for our operations, but sometimes our if we award a big project, like a construction project, and they need those kind of services, they can further subcontract that stuff out, and we certainly do encourage that. So basically the procurement principles with LADWP, because we are part of the city of Los Angeles, we have some principles that we always adhere to, which is integrity, fairness, and transparency. We want to promote competition. We have to comply with every applicable government law and regulation when it comes to procurement. But mainly we want to provide equitable opportunities for everybody, small businesses, minority businesses, women businesses. And we do that by bidding everything out. So even though we're LADWP, we're part of the city, we operate our procurement much like any other government agency by public bidding. So the concept of a level playing field is really important to us. And so when we put something out for bid, that's how we feel sets up the level playing field. So our bidding process, just like any other bidding process with the city, this is the basic overview of how it works. Someone inside the department decides they need something. Say we need like to get paper pads or pencils. They determine need for the materials, equipment, or service, whatever it needs. They submit a requisition. Our procurement department puts out a bid, that's the advertisement, and a notice is prepared, and we're soliciting people to submit their bids. And then bids come in from vendors who register. We do everything on LA Babin. And I'll talk a little bit about Babin a little bit later, what the platform and where you can find our opportunities. And then once the bids come in, they evaluate those bids, and then they award to the successful bidder. I'm going to get into a little bit of the details on how that process, or the details of that process works. So maybe it'll give you some insight on how it works. So basically there's the solicitation methods we use is competitive procurement. Like I said, that's what levels the playing field. We don't give it to, oh, it's because my brother, I know him, so let me give him the contract, obviously, right? So we put it out to bid, and the most common ways we use it, I'd say 99%, it's either an invitation for bid or a request for proposal. That's what we use, the competitive procurement process. Now we have some non-competitive procurement processes, and this is very rare. We don't use them very much. We have purchasing cards that basically are credit cards that some of our staff members have. Those are limited to very small purchases, under $1,000, usually one time. And that's mostly like field guys who may be working on a job and they're missing something, or they have to buy something. They can go to a store, use that card. So because the threshold is so low, there's no competition in that. Blanket authorities, kind of the same thing. Some people have blanket authorities where they can buy small things with sort of pre-set up, but it's very small dollar amounts. Piggybacks or cooperative agreements are when another agency has already bid something out and already has a contract in place. Since they've already gone through the procurement, the competitive procurement process, we can actually jump on their contract and piggyback on that with the same terms and conditions. And the last one is a single sole source. If what we're looking for is so special and you're the only one that can do it, they can award that without doing the competitive procurement process. And that would be something like, let's say our car only runs on like Coca-Cola, and it's got to be Coca-Cola, not Pepsi, nobody else. But we know Coca-Cola is the only one that manufactures Coca-Cola, and that's got the secret formula. They can go straight to Coca-Cola because they know no one else in the world has that formula. But like I said, the non-competitive stuff's not very common. So I'm going to talk more about the competitive procurements, the IFBs and the RFPs. So what's the difference? And I think it's important to know when you're bidding on it. So the IFB is typically used for construction projects, when we buy materials, rentals, or non-professional services. And sometimes that's called like the low bid or the sealed bid. This is the one that everybody always jokes about. Oh, it's the low bid, the cheapest thing that we can get. And that's really, it's based on price. The award will go to the lowest price bid. Responsive and responsible bidder will win that contract. And so it's kind of like a little auction. We don't allow any exceptions when we put out an IFB. So if you're bidding on it, you have to conform to everything, all the terms, the conditions, and all the specifications that's listed in that solicitation, or you will not be considered. The difference with the IFB, the other one is the RFP. Now the RFP is used when we typically do professional services, expert, technical, or other special services where bidding is not practical. It wouldn't make sense for us to say, oh, we want the cheapest builder for let's say we have to have a consultant for a design build, because the cheapest might not be the safest, or, it doesn't make sense to just go with the cheapest. So but even when the RFP's out, there's always a predetermined evaluation criteria, and it's always published when they put out the RFP. They'll usually have like technical factors, management factors, cost will be a thing. Sometimes it'll be quality of staff, how many years you've worked. There's so many things in there, but it's always written in the RFP so that you'll know exactly what criteria we're using to evaluate. Now with RFPs, there is some negotiations that can be done. So there are some exceptions that can be allowed, and during the negotiation or evaluation process is when you need to vet that out if that's something that you're asking for. It always gets awarded to the highest scoring responsive and responsible proposer based on the selection and evaluation criteria. We have to use our evaluation criteria. That's what we say, levels the playing field. It's not like, oh, I like my friend, and so I'm just gonna give it to him. So the RFP, we try to be as transparent as we can. So now that you know the two ways that we do most of the bidding, there's two things that you always have to comply with when you are bidding on any city or even any LADWP contract, or for the city of Los Angeles for that matter. For the most part, everything I tell you today will also apply to the city of Los Angeles, the Los Angeles World Airports, and the Port of Los Angeles. Your bid must always be responsive. This is a basic requirement. That means that you're complying with all the mandatory terms, the conditions, and instructions in the solicitations. You have to submit it on time. If it says these bids are due at 2 p.m. November 15th, it cannot be there at 2:01 p.m. They'll throw it out. I mean, when we had an electronic bidding system and people come in at 2 p.m. in like 1 second, it doesn't get counted. Okay, so timeliness is so important. And then you have to make sure you fulfill all the, sometimes there are some what we call like socioeconomic program requirements. So if it says, oh, you have to do a good faith effort, reach out to subcontractors, you have to do that part. You cannot just say, oh, that's not applicable to me, or I'm not going to do it. You have to complete and sign all compliance documents. And with governments, there's always so much paperwork and red tape, but it's maybe a lot, but it's not impossible, and it's not difficult. So just make sure you're careful, you cross your T's and dot your I's, because I've seen really good bids, low priced and whatnot, get thrown out just because they were not responsive. They did not turn something in on time. They did not, or failed to sign a piece of paper, or didn't do something that that said it was a mandatory requirement. The other part of being a fundamental bidding requirement is being a responsible bidder. This means that you will need to verify that your company has the technical ability and the capacity to perform and meet the specific requirements. It's about having the capacity to do what you say you're going to do and promise that you're going to be able to deliver. That's really important. Do not. So that means when you're pricing things out, even though you think, oh, it's the lowest bid, don't try to undercut the bid and think, oh, I'll take a loss this time so I can get my foot in the door. That's not a good strategy. They will look at how realistic the pricing is. And if they think that this is going to cause your business to go belly under, it becomes a problem. And you're probably going to fail on the financial responsibility portion. You also have to be ethical and honest. They will look into, the city likes to do business with good guys, not bad guys. And there are some checks that they do and some forms you got to fill out to make sure that you have an ethical and honest business. And of course, make sure you have the technical capability and the capacity to do this. kind of work, or to deliver the quantities or the items that you say you're going to do. With the government, if you mess up once, you're probably going to get blackballed and probably will have a very hard time getting another contract. So you don't want to do that. My tip really is to start small and make sure it's don't bite off more than you can chew, and then grow from there after you gain some experience. So how do you participate? If you're really interested, what you want to do is register with the City of Los Angeles Business Assistance Virtual Network. That's what we call LA Bavin. It's labavin.org. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't mean you have to act on anything, but it's a good chance to expose yourself and become part of our database, where you can view contracting opportunities, anything that new comes up, any solicitation, everything we're going to buy, everything the City of Los Angeles is going to buy will be posted on this website. So it's not just LADWP's contracts, it's the city's contracts, the LA World Airports contracts, and the Harbor Department's contracts. Everything's on LA Bavin. You can create your own user profile, and what you do, if you select the NAICS codes carefully, whatever applies to you, you will be automatically notified every time there's a new posting, so you don't miss anything. Okay, you can also download documents. Once something's posted, you can download documents if you want to submit, fill out the papers and submit the bid. Now, one thing, I will give you a secret tip since you guys are here. You can also see what was awarded in the past. And I think learning from, if you offer the same type of service or same type of goods, to see who got awarded it last time, how much it costs, or what price point they're at. This could be really beneficial to you going forward the next time that item's bid, whatever that service is, or whatever. You can see what the winning proposal kind of looked like, or if you're in the right or competitive price range. I think learning from other successes certainly does help you. So I encourage you to register on Bavin, and that's how we look that's how we advertise all our competitive solicitations. Now, the certifications I want to touch on a little bit, because there's so many of them out there, and I don't know if there's so many certifications out there, and people think, well, what does it do for me? What does it not do for me? And maybe I don't need them, maybe I do need them. So you want to get certified if it's meaningful for you, or if it helps you in some way. Now, with LADWP, we recognize these certifications here, and I categorize them in 3 different ways. The SBE, DBBE certifications, which is the small business enterprise, and the disabled veteran business enterprise. I lump those 2 together because at DWP, we actually set minimum mandatory requirements in our contracts for SBE and DBBE certified firms to participate in them. So that if you are an SBE or DBBE certified firm, you get a little bit more chances and opportunities with DWP, because we're allowed to do that or set things, preference programs based on size or disabled veteran status. Because of Prop 209, we can't do it with like anything based on race or gender, but we can do it with business size, like small businesses. And we know that many of the small businesses are also like MBEs and WBEs. And so we're hoping to capture that demographic through the small business program. The second group, like I said, we're talking about minority business enterprise, women business enterprise, and LGBTBE enterprise certified firms. Those, there might not be any preference programs, there might be any special gold programs for them, because in California, it's illegal because unfortunately Prop 16 didn't pass. It still gives you marketing exposure. I think now more than ever, everybody wants business and wants to do business with MBEs, WBEs, and LGBTBEs. So having that does I think gives you a good marketing exposure. We have programs where the city has a business inclusion program, and sometimes we will do a good faith effort program if we get federal funding, where we require our prime contractors to do a good faith effort, and those are the MBEs and WBEs are the ones that they are to reach out to. So having those certifications also help, you know, other agencies set sort of goals, and then they can see, oh, if there's a lot of MBEs registered, we know that we can aspire to see that more participation, you know, and really maybe push for more of that kind of participation when they see that there are available number of certified firms. So, and so where to get certified? When you get certified, the LBE and SLB, let me go back to the LBE and SLB. The last group, LBE and SLB certifications, are geographic certifications, okay? That's for the local business enterprise and small local business certification. And those two certifications only come from the City of Los Angeles Bureau of Contract Administration. And if you qualify for that, if your business is located in the County of Los Angeles, I strongly urge you to get those, because that actually gives you very tangible benefits when you bid, meaning you get a preference on the bidding, which means you get like a sort of a discount. And I'll talk about that in the next couple slides, about the programs that give you discounts if you have an LBE or SLB certification. Where you can get certified, the City of Los Angeles Bureau of Contract Administration will certify for free. And so that's a place you can start. We recognize the certification from that agency. We don't recognize certification from every agency, but we do recognize it from the City BCA, and we also recognize certification from the state of California. And there are a few other agencies we do recognize the certifications from, but you know, we don't go to like Joe's certification service and something like that, because that kind of is not going to be helpful to you if people don't recognize it. I will say the state of California, they certify for free. They're pretty fast now too. I think usually about 2 weeks. And if you get certified by the state, I mean, you pretty much get the best bang for your buck in that almost every agency in the state will recognize that one. Okay. So I talked about SBE DVB certification, and why you might want to do that is because I told you how LADWP awards like over $1 billion in contracts, and small businesses will think, oh, I can't bid on like big old $500 million contracts. And we at LADWP recognize that. So what we do is we have an SBE DVBE participation program. So most contracts that are over $150,000, that's for services or construction or for rentals with operators, we set a minimum mandatory SBE requirement. So the prime contractor, whether the contract is like 500 million, we tell them, you need to reach out. We'll give you a percentage. Your team that you bring in, you have to subcontract to a minimum percentage. It could be 20%, it could be 10%. It depends on the work, and each contract has its own minimum percentage, but they have to meet that percentage when they bring their team to the table and submit their bid. If they do not, if we said it's a minimum mandatory percentage of 20%, they come in with 19%, it doesn't matter how good their bid is, we throw it out. So, and I've seen people fail, and it's really a shame, but you know, they should have done better trying to bring in more of the small businesses with them on their team as subcontractors. So they will select contractors, subcontractors with SBE or DVBE certifications. Like I said, we set the percentage. It's a percentage of the contract. Each contract has its unique percentage. Our goal is 25% SB participation, 3% DVBE participation overall for all contracts every year. That's our LADWP goal, but each contract will have its own. Now, I talked about preference programs. So the LBE certification I talked about, if you are certified as an LBE, you will qualify for a local business preference program, which is for all City of LA contracts. It actually gives you an 8% preference if you're certified LBE for anything that's over 150,000. And the preference, it gets capped at $1 million, which is just a huge amount of dollars. So even if your bid's higher, if you are a certified LBE, we'll assess your bid at like up to 8% less, so that you're more competitive if you are a certified local business. And if you're not, I mean, if the solicitation is too big, small businesses, subcontractors who are local businesses can help the prime, because I didn't bring it out here, but I'll tell you, they will count some of the subcontractors. They'll give a little few points for that too. So if they, that gives them more of an incentive to include more small businesses that are local in as part of their team when they submit bids too. The other one is a small local business program. If you are SLB certified, which is a small local business certification through BCA, our Bureau of Contract Administration, you get a 10% preference for eligible stuff for contracts under 100,000. This is mostly stuff. So if you're, submitting a bid for papers and you bid, your bid might be higher than next, but if you have the SLB, you'll be assessed, evaluated with a 10% preference so that you have a advantage over someone else. So how do you get yourself ready? Make sure you register on Bavin. Make sure you have all your license requirements. So if construction, Class A, Class B, or getting registered with the DIR, you have to have everything ready. The time from the time we advertise, the time you bid, to the time we award, it's not that long. You don't have time to put things together. So you want to be locked and loaded, ready to strike when it happens. You should get all your certifications if applicable. We cannot count certifications unless it's valid at the time of bid. So be pre-certified if you are eligible, especially for any of the programs. And of course, with everybody who does business with the City of Los Angeles, the BTRC, the Business Tax Registration Certificate, anybody who does business with the City of LA or LADWP must have a BTRC. You can't get paid without it, and they won't award a contract without it. So those are the absolute minimums. Now you want to know, where do I look for opportunities? For LADWP, you can go to Bavin, of course, but if you want to get a sneak peek at what's happening, we actually publish an 18-month look ahead, and it's on our LADWP website. If you go to ladwp.com/supply line, there's a publication that we do every quarter, and it lists all the upcoming opportunities. It's forecasting, so you can kind of prepare or anticipate. Sometimes they're really big items, but don't be deterred by that. If you think you can do a small portion of it, I really encourage you to try to aim to become a subcontractor to a prime contractor who will be bidding on these projects. Okay, some of the flaws to avoid, whether you're bidding yourself, just make sure, of course, late submissions, that's an automatic rejection. If you miss or unsign or don't sign a mandatory bidding form, that's an automatic rejection. You don't do if there's a program requirement, you have to do some like SBE participation program. Like I said, if you're prime and you think, well, I don't need to do that because I'm already something. If it tells you to do it, you have to do it. Don't make decisions on your own. Contractor or subcontractor listings. If you're using subcontractors, make sure that it's all consistent. Do not take any exceptions when it's an IFB. Remember, I told you those are the straightforward, low bid stuff. And then sometimes, especially if you're in the business of construction, they will require you to submit a bond, and you have to do that when you're bidding as well, a bid bond. So any of these things will give you an automatic fail. And so these are, I think, easy ones that you should never be non-responsive for. And then some of the tips for success, I think you have to know your customers. So if you want to work for LADWP, try to understand what is it the LADWP wants. Read the solicitation, read the background, read understand, I guess, what you're bidding on, right? And when you show understanding, you can put up a better proposal. Whether you are interested in being a prime contractor or subcontractor, I really encourage you to attend pre-proposal meetings. That's where, even if you are not going to bid, if you're thinking I could be a sub to this, that's where all the prime contractors are going to be, the people who are thinking they can bid, and they're always looking for subcontractors to be on part of their team. A great time to network, a great time to show some exposure, a great time to understand what the more details of what that solicitation is about and the project that we're soliciting bids for. Always network. You have to remain visible, because we know people like to do business with people that they know. And sometimes if you've never done business with people, it's really hard. But you keep showing up at these things, people kind of get familiar. They might remember, oh yeah, and they start to feel a lot comfortable with you. I think that's a key for when you want to be a subcontractor. course, you should understand the statement of work or the specifications, and of course the contract, because even if it's a subcontractor, if you could show that you know what's expected, I think that it really does impress more upon the prime contractor and yourself, especially when you're submitting bids yourself. Do your due diligence, do your homework, always be responsive and responsible. And it could take like 10, 20 tries before you actually even get a contract. I mean, I will say, I'll be honest, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. So you have to persevere and to be tenacious and not to give up. So that, I think, will conclude everything I have to say. But if you need more help or you have more questions, feel free to call our office, supply relations office at latwp.com. Shoot us an email. We'll be happy to help you. Vendor Liaison Center can also help you. Our at purchbids at latwp.com. Thank you. So I'm going to hand it back over to Kimberly.
Wow. Awesome. What a lot of wonderful information. So what I want to do at this time, I want to be able to open it up for questions. And I know we had some questions in the chat. So I'm going to start there, Karen. And the question that we received is, under professional services, do you outsource any finance or accounting activities?
Yeah, just recently, I think I saw one for actuarial services. Sometimes they'll do a bench contract for some finance. We do most of the finance in-house, but they do sometimes have consulting contracts, and they will award to maybe a number of firms, like a bench contract, just to have when they need them. But I go to LA Babin and look to see if to be specific about which ones. Look for past contracts for finance or accounting. And that'll give you a better idea of the scope of services that they're looking for.
Okay, awesome. And I think someone was asking, how about Metro? And I assume that the question was, maybe, do you accept Metro certification?
We do not accept LA Metro certification. And that's because LA Metro, I think it's mostly like self-certification. But Metro certification, we do not accept. And Metro, it's a different color money than DWP or the City of Los Angeles. But LA Metro is not a part of the City of Los Angeles, so it's a separate entity.
Okay, thank you. And then the next question is, as a sub, if I have the LBE/SBE certification, will the prime that I work with receive the 8% benefit?
The prime will not get the 8% benefit. However, I think they might give, I'm not a buyer and I'm not in procurement, but there is a benefit that the prime kit gets when they bring on an LBE certified subcontractor. I think it's like 1% for each one, up to like 5%, up to like 5 subs or something kind of like that. But they do get some benefit. I don't know exactly what the benefit is.
Okay, great. So I want to go ahead and share my screen again. And so I wanted to let everyone know that we do have our Lunch and Learns on the first and third Wednesday of every month. Our next Lunch and Learn will be with American Honda. We also have our Accelerate information sessions that are coming up on the first and third Thursdays of the month from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. We have an information session tomorrow. I wanted to find out at this time, are there any more questions that you have for Karen regarding the Department of Water and Power? And I'm going to just allow everyone at this time, if you want to unmute to ask a question, let's go ahead and do that.
Hi, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, Karen mentioned that we could find out about past participants in certain proposals and things like that. Is there any way we can find out who is bidding on certain LADWP projects, not necessarily the ones previously done them, but who is bidding on upcoming projects. And thank you for your presentation.
Hi, Theodora. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Yeah. We can't predict who is bidding. I don't know. Let's see. The best way I think is when you go to the pre-bid conferences, there's usually a sign-in sheet, and they publish. I'm pretty sure they publish the sign-in sheet who attended. Okay. And they will usually list if they are there as potential prime or potential sub. And I think that's your best bet to obtain a copy of the attendance list at the pre-bid conference. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, our systems are kind of in transition right now. They would normally upload that information, I think, on LA Babin while the solicitation is open. If not, you can contact the buyer and ask for a copy.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Hi, Karen. This is James. Thank you. Your presentation was awesome and very clear. In working with several types of businesses, one in particular, working with several janitorial, which have now, transitioned since, COVID, they're now certified COVID compliant for cleaning. Are there any opportunities that are upcoming that you guys are currently looking for in that janitorial with the focus of the COVID-19 cleaning compliant?
Yeah, that's a good question. You would think so. We have like I said, we have our own janitorial staff, a whole army of them. I know that they've kind of amped up their efforts here at DW. They're doing a really wonderful job. And usually if we have our own in-house staff, it's very rare that they would bid for work out like that, only because there's so many union issues.
Right.
They really will do that. But, I think for things that we don't use in-house, the best way to go about is some of our projects, if sometimes it's, I don't know, I'm not sure if they would do stuff like construction trailers or whatnot. Sometimes when we bid a job out, those on the projects, they might be able to participate as subcontractors. But I have not seen, and in terms of the cleaning, even with the COVID, bidding out for janitorial services.
Okay, and then here's another question. We have another client. He has a waterless car wash system, and I know that various government entities, they do have a lot of cars. I know they're large, for water waste. I think with LA County, so they're looking for those types of opportunities. Are there any type of opportunities for vehicle cleaning, graffiti removal with those clients that have that capacity?
Well, that's interesting. When you talk about new technologies or something that we don't already do, if we're not aware of that there's such thing as a waterless car wash system, we probably won't put it out to bid, right? I mean, they might be more generic in terms of we need a system for some sort of car washing contract or something. And at that time, it's an opportunity. But if it's something new like that, you can go ahead and email, have the client email. I'd be happy to pass on that kind of information to our fleet services so they can kind of look at it. And if they're interested, they can reach out directly to the vendor to get more information. So the next time they put something out to bid, they can include, maybe broaden the scope so that, that's a potential possibility. I think sometimes we write our specification based on what we know, but I do encourage change, and vendors who are interested in introducing what they can do, they can certainly send over, capacity or brochures and whatnot. We'll make sure it gets to the right people, the users who submit those requisitions.
Okay, and then one last question. Working with clients that also, they do a lot of outreach to the community. So I know there are times where, when there's a a particular initiative, whether it's health or a new type of awareness campaign, are there any opportunities for organizations like that?
You know, I know, well, DWP, I have not seen that too much at DWP because we're so large. We have our own PR team, we have our own communications department, but the city of Los Angeles, I've seen them contract out for stuff like that. So it's definitely a possible area to get into. And sometimes they're not, you know, they're usually not huge contracts. So I think it's a feasible area. You could make sure that they do register on Alibaba. And if you want to send over the stuff to, you know, have the stuff sent over to me, I'll send it over to, so like maybe some of the people I know over at the city. I could even send it to our PR people in case they want to subcontract some of the stuff out too.
Thank you.
And then, Karen, I have a question for you. So sometimes we have businesses, especially with the pandemic, that have made a pivot, you know, because they're trying to figure out sort of what's next. What do you guys typically look for in terms of who do you consider to be, I guess, qualified, or what advice would you have to businesses that have had to make a pivot? You know, maybe they've been in business, you know, for some years, and now they're having to pivot to maybe offer other products and services. So they're trying to sort of get back into the groove of things. And then we also have businesses that have been doing business for a number of years, and maybe, you know, they're just entering the contracting space. Sort of what advice would you have for those businesses in terms of their track to really get started? And
right. And, you know, Kimberly, just like you guys always emphasize with this contract connection stuff is, you know, you got to build capacity, right? So really you have to start out small. I really think I really am a big proponent, especially of being a subcontractor first. If you can be a subcontractor to somebody, I know that's not as easier, you know, said than done, but if you can, because then you're not taking the risk, the prime contractor's taking the risk, and you can kind of use that as a mentoring opportunity, build capacity, and then this kind of also builds up your resume in that, well, you know, I worked on that government project, I worked on the trunk line, you know, even as a subcontractor, and that gives you a little bit more cred, right? But more of a record, and then you can see what you can expect when you're doing business with the government. You know, like there's some things, you know, payments are kind of slow. You got to be able to carry your payroll until you get that payment, and things like that. You know, inspections or some of the things that might be a little bit easier with a private entity. You know, the government's got a lot of regulations and red tape.
And, you know, I heard you say something earlier, and I kind of chuckled a little bit because it's a consistent theme. You said, you know, don't enter into a contract and mess up with the government.
Right.
And I think that's something, you know, we always stress in our programming. You know, you really want to be able to come in strong. And if you're not ready, you know, you're just not ready. And it's better to just not enter the space or not go after a contract if you're not ready, as opposed to, you know, hurting your reputation as a company. So I just wanted to know if you could talk to me more about that, or
no, you're absolutely right. You know, you have to. That's about being a responsible bidder, right? You have to be ready. You have to know what to expect, and this is why I stress maybe being a subcontractor might be the best way. You kind of know. Well, you don't have to take any risk. If you mess up, that's on you, and then you're going to be put on our blackball list. I mean, because they do a background check, they look at past performance. A contractor performance is part of your record, and if you had failed in the past, government doesn't like taking risks, right? So I think subcontracting is a great way to do it, or starting out very small, and maybe if DWP stuff is too big, you can start out somewhere else, even the county, any other government agency. I think we do it somewhat similarly, any kind of, it's not just for just so you could test, not just for the government to test you, but for you to test out what public contracting is like.
Mhm.
You know, it's not for everybody. You know, it can be lucrative, or it can be really a pain.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And know just some of the things that we've seen in the past in terms of businesses wanting to jump out there right away. Um, so go ahead.
No, I just want to say, and I really also say, you know, it's about not just about accessibility, but it's about understanding. So programs like what you're hosting here today, there's a lot of like academy programs, workshops, learning. Just that's part of doing your due diligence. You really got to understand how the agency does business for you to succeed as well, right? So you know, the more you learn, the more you grow, right? The more you grow, the more successful you can be. I'm a very big proponent of like trying to make sure you understand what you're getting into, and the more you know, definitely the more successful you'll be.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I have another question for you that's a little bit concerning just how maybe the opportunities are listed. I know sometimes, you know, an opportunity, and I want to, you know if this is the case with LADWP, maybe there's a request for a proposal for maybe something in construction, but that one listing can just cover a lot of different things. Is that something you've seen before? And can you talk a little bit about that, if so?
Of course, you know, so many of our opportunities, like I said, are for our subcontracting opportunities for the smaller firms. So you see a construction opportunity as a myriad of things that we require. It's your job as a potential subcontractor pitch to the primes or potential primes, and you'll know because if you look at past records, a lot of the prime contractors, because a lot of our contracts are really big, 100 million or heavy civil. They're kind of sometimes the same players in terms of big construction companies, but they're always looking for subcontractors. We're always making them look for subcontractors because you need to know what you do and what you can do and how you can benefit them. Don't just go and say, oh, I got a certification MBE, you need to meet on your contract. You show them what makes you stand out from somebody else or what you can offer them. Hey, you need this as part of this. I saw that in this scope of services, this is an area that I can do. You got to sell yourself to the prime contractor, and really, it's your job, I think. They're not going to think, oh, there's some guy who can do well drilling and it's all quiet or whatnot. And if you know you can do that and say, hey, I saw this as part of the scope, I can offer this for you, and see how it benefits them.
I know businesses have an opportunity to go on LA Bobbin, to register at LA Bobbin in order to share their services and what they're able to do. Is there anything else that you suggest in terms of sort of generating that initial relationship with some of the prime contractors or the larger contracts for consideration? How do they facilitate that relationship? I don't know if there's a Meet the Primes type event.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because of this pandemic, a lot of these events that we'd have in person have all kind of down to virtual. It makes it a little bit tough, but I think if you can be a member of an advocacy organization, they do a lot of stuff to kind of facilitate networking. I know it sounds like so cliche all the time, but you really do kind of have to go out and have an elevator pitch ready. You know what you do, so when you meet someone, maybe have a 60-second speech, tell them exactly what you do, so they know. Have a capacity statement that you can pass out or email nowadays, right? So people remember you. Follow up. It's all that typical stuff, but even online events now, I think it's worth it. Attending. You can learn, and you'll see some of the same players there too, but with this COVID pandemic, it's kind of tough, I will say. It's not easy.
Right, yeah.
So I'll say, even today, I'm here at this event, okay? And there's a name I recognize because I've seen her at places. And I know her, and so I think, it makes me feel good to see her, and I hope to see some success for her too. And I think, if someone asked me, oh, was there some services, I would be happy to recommend her.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's awesome. And I tell people, especially the businesses in our cohort, that it's really a small world in the space that we
It is.
operate in. And the more you can get out there and network and connect with people, attend different events. And I know it's hard as, business owners because you're focused on your daily business, but that networking component, it's really important. And I think it's a relevant factor even with the government. And that's something that people are always concerned about is, if I'm trying to do business with a government agency, how much will, the networking, et cetera, help me in those cases.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a concern. How do I get beyond, or build those relationships beyond, what is being presented? Because sometimes it appears to be more of a challenge when they're trying to connect with government.
Right. Yeah. And I'll say a lot of the firms have like diversity offices, right? And they're always trying to reach out. So it might be a chance to connect. You a lot of times you go to these events, you'll see the person in charge, from like, whether it's Turner Construction or PCL, they've all got a diversity officers that come to a lot of these events, and that's a good time to network. They want to meet you. They want your business cards because they want that pool kind of pick from too.
Okay, that's awesome. I don't want to feel like I'm taking over all of the space. I'm not sure if there's any more questions out there. Did anyone else have a question? Because I feel like I
see one about with certifications with LA County. Was that answered? It says, what about LA County certification?
Okay, yeah, LA County certifications. Let's see. I can send out. I mean, LA County certifications. I don't think we accept LA County certifications. CUCP we accept, and it depends. Certain certifications, we're very particular about the certifications we accept. But if you download anything with a SBE requirement, small business participation requirement in LA Babin, any solicitation, it has a listing of the certifications we recognize, very specific, which agencies and what kind. It's a whole chart.
Okay, very good. Did anyone else have questions before we sort of wrap up here?
Oh, I do see, I see a question to me, and I'm going to answer it publicly because they asked where can I see the public purchase record for the city. The purchase record for the city, most awarded contracts I think are still on LA Bab, and you should be able to download each contract from there. But I'll give you another secret tip. If you really want to get detailed, you can do a CPRA request, a California Public Records Act request with the agency and say, I want to see the specific, bid or the winning proposal or the contract resulting from this solicitation, and they will turn it over to you within 10 days.
Also, if I could add to that, Department of General Services, which is the state, their website is CALE, the letter E as an elephant, procure.ca.gov. You could actually go on the state's website, and there is, you can go back, I think, 5 or 6 years to look at past bids.
And then I do have a quick question regarding bidding before we wrap up. The question we get all the time, Karen, from business owners is how do we know, in terms of bids, if we're bidding too low, if we're bidding too high, because they want to be competitive, understanding, what the price is, deliver their services, but just understanding how to be competitive. Do you have any suggestions around that?
Yeah, I think I think you have to be honest with your pricing. Do as low as you can afford to go without still make a profit. Okay, you have to be honest with what you are able to do. You don't try to find out what the lowest is and try to go lower, because this is sealed bid when it's bidding. But once the bids come in and the bid closes, they will publish a bid recap. You'll be able to see the prices for everybody else. Then you can kind of assess where you are in that spectrum, whether you've been competitive or not. And so maybe that one time you're not going to be, and if you can see that the lowest bid is way too low and you cannot afford that, then maybe that's you're going to have to try bidding for other things. But if you think, oh, well, I could have done that, next time you know if you're in the competitive range or not. But always, once you finish bidding, I always say, go back. Just because you didn't get it, you still should look at who got it. You want to know what did they do that I didn't do right. Then you can always learn from next time. Like I said, you have to be tenacious and you have to keep going at it, because it might take you 10 times before you get anything, if anything.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for an amazing presentation today. Such good information. We appreciate all of the wonderful tips that you have provided. And we definitely appreciate the work that you are doing with diverse suppliers and in the contracting and procurement space. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for having me. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I know it's really tough times, and I hope it was worthwhile for everyone. Thank you.
It definitely was. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a wonderful day.
Take care.